Let's try to the begin from the top. Lo yikrivu keves baboiker. Pardon me. So this is today's daf and daf. I found a picture that really describes the tnufa of the shtei halechem with the sheep, with the shalomim sheep. Just I know you know that we're supposed to lift them up together, and the sheep are linked with the bread. So he makes here a picture, a nice picture of the two breads and the sheep in between, the two sheep in between, and that's how the kohen lifted it. Okay, but that's not going to be the discussion of today. The discussion of today is going back into our Mishnah, and the Mishnah is discussing. Okay, hold on. Okay, the Mishnah is discussing Amar Rab Shimon. So what happened? The Mishnah was discussing a situation where they did not bring the first sheep in the morning. And so do you bring the sheep, the tamid, in the afternoon? You didn't bring the sheep in the morning. Can you bring the afternoon? So we had a machlokes between Rab Shimon and the Tanna Kama. Well, part of the conversation, Rab Shimon brought up something out of the ballpark, which means that the first time they ever brought something on the Mizbeach, when they inaugurated, let's say they built the new Mizbeach HaChitzoin, the first carbon was the first carbon that they brought on this Mizbeach. You can see a picture of that, an aerial view of the Mizbeach. The first carbon was brought in the morning. Now, where did that come into the whole picture? That's the Gemara's question. So chinuch man bekar shmei. Who's talking about inaugurating mizbeach that was never used before? So the Gemara says there's some words missing in the Mishnah, and therefore, when you have these words in the Mishnah, everything will make perfect sense. The back and forth between Rabbi Shimon and the Tanna Kama. So we're going to go through the Mishnah. Let's say they did not, the Tanna Kama says, if they did not bring the first sheep in the morning, the oilas tamid in the morning, don't bring the afternoon sheep. But when did we say such an idea? It's only if the mizbeach was never used before, then don't make your first carbon the afternoon carbon. If the mizbeach was used before, it's an old mizbeach, we were constantly using it. So even if on purpose the kahanim did not bring the sheep in the morning, the oilas tamid in the morning, yakrivu bein arabayim, they can bring the one in the afternoon. Amar Rab Shimon says disagrees. Hey Masai, when was this set? When they were forced, or by mistake they didn't bring. If the Kahanim on purpose did not bring the oilas atomid in the morning, then they don't makriv it in the afternoon, and which is pretty strange because according to Rab Shimon, there will be no tomids that day, and so the mizbeach loses out if they did it on purpose and missed the morning tomid. Then Rabbi Shimon continues, Lo yaktiru k'taris baboike, if they did not do the k'taris in the morning, then yaktiru ben abayim. They could be maktir the k'taris in the afternoon. The k'taris was brought on the inner mizbeach, the mizbeach that was in the sanctuary. So right over here, you have the k'taris. You have right over here, we might mark it yellow or whatever. Right over here, you have the Ketaris Mizbeach. So if they didn't do the morning Ketaris, they can do the afternoon Ketaris. So the Gemara says like this: how do I know if that you missed the first one? How do I know that the inauguration of the Mizbeach, the first time you used the Mizbeach, HaChitzoin, the outside Mizbeach, the first time it should be used for an oilas tamid in the morning? Because the Brisa says, the pasuk says, bring the second animal, the second sheep in the afternoon. So we darshan Sheni ben Abayim, the second one, that it should be the second animal of the day you bring in the afternoon. V'lo rishon ben Abayim. It can never be the first time you're using the mizbeach in the afternoon. And here it's talking about a pasuk that doesn't mention the first or the second. It just calls it second in the afternoon. That always the second, no matter what happens in the morning, if it was the second cannot be the first carbon you bring in the afternoon. The first carbon brought on the mizbeach. And when was this discussion of the pasuk shlenis chanesh on mizbeach? If you never used this mizbeach in the ever before, then the first carbon should not be an afternoon carbon. But if the mizbeach did have inaugurated and it's an old mizbeach, we've been using it, so then if you missed the first carbon tamid in the morning, afil rishon ben abayim, then you make the first carbon of the day in the afternoon. Amar Rab Shimon said, Amasai. When was this said that you can make the first carbon in the afternoon? When they were forced or mistaken. If the kaim didn't on purpose, they didn't makrav a keves in the morning, they should not be makrav in the afternoon. But if they did not do ketaris in the morning, they can do the ketaris in the afternoon. Says the Gemara, according to Shimon, if the kahanim on purpose did not bring the oilas haboiker, they can't bring the oilas in the afternoon. Because the kahanim are sinning, we cause the mizbeach not to have the carbon in the afternoon. Rabba said like this, this is what Rabbi Shimon meant to say. These kahanim in this family is punished. They cannot be mocked of the carbon in the afternoon. They bring a substitute team, and they are mocked of the carbon in the afternoon. But what about like Tiro Kataris Babayke? If on purpose they didn't do the Kataris in the morning, Yaktiro Ben Arbayim, then we allow the Kayan to do it in the afternoon. Why? So Kavan Deloy Shticha, it's not so common. Most of the times, if a kahanim are going to be negligent and on purpose not do something, it's going to be the carbon oila, because the oilas were brought throughout the day individually and sibur, so it's possible they were negligent and they didn't want to do it. But a kataris, it's not common. There's only twice a day you do the kataris, and furthermore, umatra makes a person rich. And only one kohen has this opportunity to do the kataris in his lifetime. So let's say the guy won the lottery. One kohen won the lottery to do the kataris. This is the once in a lifetime he'll ever have the opportunity to do the kataris. So he's probably not going to miss that opportunity because it's a segula to make a person wealthy. So even if the kohen purposely did not do the kataris, we allow the rest of the family to have another lottery to do the kataris in the afternoon. Because generally they're not going to, it's beloved by the kahanim, the kataris, and they were never going to be negligent not to do it. Rab Shimon, the kula isakreva ben abayim sheim cham kazbeich zov el kataris asamin shall ben abayim. Rab Shimon says that if you did not bring the kataris in the morning, so really, let's say it was a pound and a quarter of kataris, so you divide it in half. And you brought half in the morning, half in the afternoon. Let's say you didn't bring the first half in the morning. So what do? You bring a half a pound in the afternoon of kataris. So Reb Shimon said you could bring the full mana for the kataris in the afternoon to make up, I guess, for the kataris that you missed in the morning. And Reb Shimon's proof to that is because the first time they inaugurated the Mizbeach HaZahav, the first time a Mizbeach Hazav was used was at night, and they were makriv at that night a full mana. So we see it's not uncommon, it's not out of the ballpark to say that at night you makriv a full mana on the Mizbeach. Says the Gemara, so you're coming to tell me that the Mizbeach Panimi, the Kataris Asama Mizbeach, was only inaugurated in the afternoon. For Tanya, we learned in the Brisa B'Ktaris Asam and Shel Shachar that they inaugurated the Mizbeach HaPnimi in the morning. And says the Gemara Tanaihi, it's a Machlekes Tanaim. So this Mizbeach inside over here, when was the first time you inaugurated? According to one opinion, it's in the afternoon, and according to another opinion, no, you started the first Ketairis was done in the morning. Omar Abaya said, Mistavra, it makes more sense, Commander Omar, Ketairis Asamim, that says the Ketairis Asamim Shabbat Abayim. They started it in the afternoon. The pasuk said, from this pasuk, you learn that they clean the mizbeach every morning. If they did not make the hadlok at night, why were they cleaning it in the morning? So the first time they lit the menorah was at night. Which makes sense. The menorah was supposed to be lit at night, and in the morning you clean out the lamps. Now, there was a linkage there's another linkage that links the Ketairis to the menorah. It says, Bahalas Aaron and Neiris Ben Arbayim, Yaktirenu, you do the Ketairis. So there's a linkage between the Ketairis. So just like the menorah was inaugurated at night, so also the Ketairis Mizbeach was inaugurated in the afternoon towards evening time. So says the Gemara, according to the opinion that says the inauguration of the Mizbeach HaPnimi was in the morning. Where did he learn that from? And says the Gemara, Gomar, Mizbeach HaOila. He learned it from the Mizbeach HaOila. He learned simply, you compare this Mizbeach, the inside Mizbeach, to the outside Mizbeach. We already established that the outside Mizbeach was inaugurated in the morning with the Oilas Talmud of the morning. So also the inauguration, the first service that was done on Mizbeach HaPnimi was the Ketairis of the morning. That's the other opinion. The shulchan, the first time you put breads on the table, you see the shulchan was right over here. I guess you can't really see it, but this is an aerial view of the shulchan. And the menorah is here, the shulchan's over there. The first time you put breads was on Shabbos. Says the Gemara, we don't put the breads there during the weekdays. But what happens if you did put it during the weekdays? Does the breads become holy? So the Gemara, and that will be strange to say that. The Gemara says later on that putting it on the weekday is not going to make the breads holy. So he gifa kamash malam. That's precisely what the Mishnah is trying to say. The chinuch v'chidush the shulchan b'shabbasu. The same time that you machanach, you inaugurate the shulchan, that's the first time it's mekadosh breads. And when we say that the breads become holy, it means you're not allowed to take it out of the Beis Hamikdash. And if you don't eat it in time, it becomes pasul. There's certain halachas to that. So when do those breads become holy? On Shabbos. And when is the first time you use the shulchan? Is on Shabbos. So the first time you put the breads on the shulchan on Shabbos, for this brand new shulchan, that's only then it becomes holy. And at the same time, the mizbeach the shulchan becomes fit to use. Like the menorah. The first time you use the menorah and lighting it up is at night, and there's only one action of just lighting up the menorah. So therefore, that one action establishes the chinuch of the menorah. So that one action of putting the breads on the table establishes the chinuch of the shulchan and the kiddush of the lechem, the holiness of the nechem. Now the Gemara discusses a side point. Tanar Rabbana, can a person donate Ketairis on his own? Can a tzibur donate Ketairis on their own? We know that the Ketairis was brought on the Mizbeach HaPnimi. So the question is, Tanar Rabbana, Zel Ketairis also the Yachid al Mizbeach HaChitzoin by Rosh Shai. There was one time in the Chumash where an individual donated Ketairis, and instead of bringing it on the inside Mizbeach, they burned the Ketairis on the outside Mizbeach. Who was the individual that donated Ketairis in the Chumash? Amar Ahecha, Amar Papa ben Nesiim. By the Nesiim, it says Kaf Achaz Zora Zahav Malaya Ketairis. Each of the Nesiim, the presidents of each of the Nesiim, during the first 12 days of Nisan, they brought Ketairis, and that Ketairis was not brought on the Mizbeach HaPnimi, but rather it was burned on the Mizbeach HaChitza. So, would you be medayik from this brayse? El Yochid al Mizbeach HaChitza Hu Deloy. An individual cannot make a donation of Ketairis on the outside Mizbeach. But he could make a donation to donate Keteris on the Mizbeach HaPnimi. The Su, are you going to make another dia? Inference. On Mizbeach HaChutzin, Yochid Hudaloi. On the outside Mizbeach, a Yochid can't do. Hatziba Makriva, can a Tzibur decide that they're going to bring extra Keteris and burn it on the Mizbeach HaChitzon? Is that when can you derive that from the Brisa? But Tanya, we learned in another Brisa, maybe I would think an individual can make an Adava a donation, and if he promises to bring guitarists, we force him to bring guitarists, and we probably make him bring it onto Mizbeach HaPnimi. Talmud Loimer loy sala all of Katarizara. You're not allowed to bring on the Mizbeach individual donations. On the Mizbeach HaPnimi, no individual was allowed to donate. Maybe. So I might think an individual can't bring on the Mizbeach HaPnimi because individuals never brought anything on the Mizbeach HaPnimi. Aval, we don't know the base. Aval, but Tzibor maybe, Shay maybe, but a Tzibor would be able to donate Keteris. Maybe they can even donate Keteris because we see they do donate Keteris. Maybe they can bring their Keteris on the Mizbeach HaPnimi. And so also, maybe they can make a new donation. Talmud Loimer Loy Salo, you're not allowed to put any strange Keteris, donated Keteris on the Mizbeach HaPnimi. Okay, so we established on the Mizbeach HaPnimi. Yochol Lo Yalo on Mizbeach HaPnimi, Ava Yalo on Mizbeach HaChitzon. Maybe they can bring it on the outside Mizbeach. But Loimer, the pasuk says, "Ei Shemen HaMishcha Ves Keteris HaSamen LaKodesh Kechol Asher Tzivi Sicha Yaseh." The only you have to do it exactly precisely. That only the commandment of bringing the tzibah, bringing half a mana in the morning, half a mana in the afternoon. That's the only keteris that was brought on the mizbeach hapnimi, and that's it. Only exactly what I command you that could be done. But there's no voluntary donations of keteris both on the mizbeach hapnimi and the mizbeach chitzon. Whether individual, whether it's tzibur. So how do you reconcile the previous brisa? The previous brisa implied that an individual can make a donation on the mizbeach hapnimi, and a tzibur can make a donation of keteris on the mizbeach hachitzon. Rav Papa says no. They all agree to that. Loy mebaya, come on. So of course it's unnecessary to say anything. Loy mebaya. This is what the first brisa means to say. Loy mebaya tzibur al mizbeach hachitzon b'loy ashkecha. A tzibur certainly can't make a donation on the mizbeach hachitzon because they never make donations of keteris on the mizbeach hachitzon. The loy biboya. Now you don't even have to say yochad al mizbeach hapnimi that an individual cannot make a donation on the mizbeach hapnimi of keteris. He can't make the donation of keteris for the mizbeach hapnimi. We never find the yochid in the Chumash that brought keteris donated keteris to be brought on the mizbeach hapnimi. Ella, the Bryce is teaching you, afila yochid al mizbeach hachitzon, even if an individual wants to donate on the mizbeach hachitzon keteris on the outside, maybe an individual will be allowed to donate keteris on the outside mizbeach. Why? Because we found in the Chumash that Nisim, the Ashkelon Nisim, that's exactly what the Nisim did. The presidents of each Shevet donated keteris for the outside mizbeach. So maybe in the future generations, anybody could donate keteris for the outside mizbeach. So the Gemara says, that was just a one-time thing, and not to be learned from. So an individual cannot make a donation anytime at all.
Recording in progress.
So let's do the next Mishnah. The next Mishnah on Nun Amud Beis is discussing the mincha that was brought by the Kohen Gadol every day, or the Kohen the first time he became a Kohen. Pasuk says, "Vaydaber Hashem u'Moshe leimar in Parshas Tzav, zeh korban Aharon Rabbon asher kibel Hashem b'yomi machshav yosai." On the occasion of his anointment, Asir Yisrael for soiles mincha tamid. He brings one asiras, 1/10 of a ephah of flour, and every day he has to do it. But you split it in half. Machzisa b'boker, machzisa b'erev. You split it half in the morning, half in the evening. And then the Torah tells you that it should be prepared on machvas b'shem and teyasem bechas to biyenu. It should be prepared with oil on a griddle. Tfune minchas pitim. You should bring it well soaked and offer it as a baked bread, fold it over, slices. Takriva reich nichayich lashan. What does this all mean? So in the minchas chvitim was this is it. Menachos are made into 12 loaves of matzah. Now, these 12 loaves were burned on the mizbeach completely. They're not like the kohanim eat it. The kohen gadol made 12 loaves of matzah, and 6 he burned on the mizbeach, threw 6 of them on the mizbeach in the morning, and 6 in the afternoon. And they both were from the amount of flour of a series or ephah soilus. The minchas had the same order, except that only half the minchas chavitim is brought in the morning, the rest in the afternoon. The oil and flour of the morning and the afternoon loaves of the chavitim are designated before the preparation, and the entire carbon was burnt on this bath. So here's all the thing. The only unique thing over here is after the dough is mixed with oil, it is boiled with water, okay, baked in an oven, that's a fiyah, and fried on a machvas pan into matzahs. Now, these matzahs, when you finish frying them, they were easily folded. They were folded, but not broken. And then you brought it to the mizbeach, and then you salted it, and then you burnt it on the mizbeach. Oh, you put laboin on it. Okay, so that's it. So that was the minchas chavitim. Now comes the Mishnah and says, Chavite kohen gadol loy hayaboin chatzayin. The kohen gadol didn't bring a half half of the amount in the morning and and then in the afternoon went home and brought the other half, because asirus ephah soilus, he had to bring it all at one time. He can't bring a half of isirus in the morning, and then in the afternoon when he needs the next one, he goes home and tells his wife to no. He had to bring the whole asirus ephah at one time. Maybe Yisar and Shalom, v'chotzeyu, and then he divided it in half. And then he prepared it. He brought on the mizbeach half in the morning, half in the afternoon. So now the question is, Kohen, if the Kohen Gadol, right? We're dealing with the Kohen Gadol. Maybe Mechza Shachris, he brought half in the morning, Umes, and then he died. And they put another Kohen to take his place. He should not bring the new Kohen should not bring in a half a saring from his house because all he had to do is a half a isarim, because he wasn't the Kohen Gadol in the morning, he just took over in the afternoon. The Chatzi Esroin Shal Rishon, and so he doesn't bring a half a saring from his house. Ella, what you do is like this. Maybe Isar and Shalom, you bring an entire. The second Kohen brings an entire Isar. The Chitzein, you divide it in half. Makrav Mechza is Makrav half. And when another half, he destroys. And what happened to the first Kohen, second half? You see, the first Kohen who brought the Mechza Shachris and then died, what happened to his second half? His second half was lost. Nimtza, between the two Kahanim, Kohen A and Kohen B, the one that took over, Shneim Chatzoyim Bekraven, each one had a half of their Isarim was Makrav on the Mizbeach, Shnei Chatzoyim Oivdim, and 2 halves were destroyed, lost. But again, you have to bring this as a unit, a whole Isarim as a unit. Tana Rabbanon, the rabbis taught the following. Ilu nema mincha machzis, so yisa oima maybe chatzi saram bebeisoi shachris umakrav chatzi saram bebeisoi arvis umakrav. If the Chumash would have wrote, you bring a half a isar. The Chumash could have written mincha machzis. You bring a mincha machzis, right? Mincha machzis. But here the Torah says minchas tamid, and then machzis. So you divide it in the morning and you divide it in half. So therefore, what you learn from there, you have to divide it in half from a complete whole. This is the exact thing. Maybe you bring an entire Isar, and then you divide it in half. You divide it in half, and you makriv half in the morning, half in the night. But the whole isarin has to be brought to the base of Mikdash at one time. What happens? Nitmo mechza shal ben abayim. Oisha abed. Let's say the afternoon one somehow became tummy. A sheretz fell on top of it. What should the kohen gadol do? Does he bring another half from home? You have to bring, it has to be half of a whole. So you can't just bring a half to replace the half that became tummy. Okay, maybe Yisar Shalom, you bring in another Yisarim from your house and you divide it in half. Umakrav mechza, you makrav this one part of it, mechza of it, and the other half you lost. You don't need it, so you just burn it. Nimsu Shnei, he brought two Yisarims. Let's say this Kohen brought two Yisarims. Shnei Chitzoyim Kraven, two half of those Yisarims were makrav. One for the morning, one for the afternoon. And two were lost. Two were lost. They destroyed. And then the same idea what we have in our Mishnah. Let's say the Kohen Gadol brought a half in the morning and then died. And then they appointed another Kohen Gadol to take his place. I might think that he could bring a half Yisaron from his house, or just use the Chatzi Yisaron of the first Kohen Gadol that died. He has to bring a whole one and slice it in half. Okay, tzad, maybe Yisaron Shon, the Chaitzeu, Umakriv. He brings in the second Kohen Gadol, the one that is taking over, should bring a brand new Yisaron Shalom, divide it in half. Umakriv and makriv it for the afternoon, and then destroy the other half of it. Nimsu shnei two halves are being destroyed from the first Kohen Gadol and the second Kohen Gadol. And two halves are being makriv from the first Kohen Gadol and the second Kohen Gadol. Now, one last point, and then we'll stop. Tana Kamed Rav Nachman. Tana taught a Bryce in front of Rav Nachman. Mechza Rishon and Mechza Sheni to Ubar Tzirasam. V'yetzu lebeis hasreifa. You have the first half and the second half. So the second half, let's say, the Mechza Rishon from the two Kohen Gadol, right? This half of the first Kohen Gadol and the half from the second Kohen Gadol that you're supposed to burn, right? Oivdim. First, what does that mean? Oivdim, you make them lost. Ti Ubar Tzirasam, let them rot first. The Yetzel Beis Sreifa, and then burn them. Amalei Rav Nachman Bishlam Arishan Echse Lakrava. Right? Ela Sheni Lamalei Ibid Tzarasa Mikara Ibid Kaasi. The first Kohen Gadol, when he brought his, the first one was potentially could have been brought on the Mizbeah had he lived. So therefore, you understand, you let it rot. But the second one, second Kohen Gadol, when he brought a full Isarim, and he was makriv the first half for the afternoon. The second one had no chance to be brought on the Mizbeah. So Lama li ibid tzarasa, why should it rot? Mikara li ibid kasi. From the very time that you brought it to the Beis Hamikdash, it was destined to be burnt. So why do I need it to lose its appearance? Why do I need it to rot first? Answers the Gemara, Amalachmani, who is the author of this brisa? Tana de Beirabavua, the Oma Afilu Pigel Tain Ibid Surah. No matter what, we always try to make sure that any pasul, before we burn it, we need that it should we should have it rot first before we burn it. Even Pigel, Rashi says, the pasul chamahu, it's such a significant disqualification. Pasul dairaisa, who Toin Surah, it needs to lose its form. You have to let it rot first. Ravashi says, even if you want to say it goes according to Rabbanim. So the question is, why do you cause it to rot first? So the Gemara says, even the palguhu, even a high makrav, even a high makrav, michsachazim. When the second Kohen Gadol brought his Yisara and Shalim, and then divided in half, he could have chosen any half to be brought on the Mizbeach for the afternoon. So both of them potentially should have been brought on the Mizbeach. And therefore, once they had a potential to be brought on the Mizbeach, therefore, we can't burn them right away when they become disqualified. We have to wait till they lose they have to rot a little bit, and then only then can we burn it. Okay, so Baruch Hashem, we just started a new topic, and we just finished Bez Hashem, Daf Nun in Masechta Menachos.